Picture this. You meet a woman who turns every head in the room. She's radiant, smart, magnetic, the kind of person who makes the air feel charged just by walking in. You do everything right. You're thoughtful, consistent, attentive. You bring her flowers, text her every morning, check in when she's had a long day. You're the kind of man everyone says women dream of. And yet, somehow she starts to pull away. Her texts get shorter. Her laughter feels different. And the warmth that once filled her eyes begins to fade. You can feel it happening, but you don't understand why. The truth isn't that she stopped liking you. The truth is that something inside her stopped feeling you. Attraction, at its core, isn't built on comfort. It's built on curiosity, tension, and unpredictability. When everything becomes certain, when there's no mystery left, the emotional rhythm that fuels desire goes silent. It's not that she wants drama. It's that her brain, just like yours, is wired to crave the unknown. When every move you make is predictable, her mind stops anticipating you, and without anticipation, there's no spark. This isn't manipulation. It's psychology. The brain releases dopamine not when it gets what it wants, but when it wonders if it will. That uncertainty, the space between giving and waiting, is what keeps attraction alive. When you're always available, always replying instantly, always giving more than what's asked, you accidentally remove the very thing that made you exciting to her in the first place. You give her everything before she's emotionally invested enough to value it. Most men confuse attention with connection. They think love is about constant reassurance, constant giving, constant proving. But what really pulls someone closer isn't being available at every second. It's having a life, an energy, a center of gravity that doesn't disappear just because someone new appeared. When she feels like you're losing yourself in her, her subconscious begins to whisper. He doesn't have anything else holding him together. And that's when she starts to drift. The men who unknowingly keep attraction alive aren't the ones playing games. They're the ones who understand the balance between presence and distance. They don't chase approval. They invite connection. They don't prove their worth through constant words. They let their composure speak for them. When you treat someone as the center of your world before they've chosen to be part of it, you stop being a mystery, you become a routine. And routine, no matter how kind or loving, eventually becomes invisible. This is why confidence matters so much more than charm. Real confidence isn't about arrogance or control. It's the quiet sense of self that says, I know who I am, and I don't need your validation to keep being him. Women, like men, are drawn to those who seem whole without them. That independence reads as stability, as safety, as something worth respecting. You don't have to act distant, you just have to act centered. When you stop trying to win someone's affection, you allow them the space to feel it. When you stop giving everything, you create room for curiosity. When you stop explaining yourself, you invite imagination. Attraction isn't about doing more. It's about being more. More grounded, more authentic, more unpredictable in the best possible way. What makes someone irresistible isn't the grand gestures or constant messages. It's the feeling that there's something in them you haven't fully figured out yet. That quiet confidence, that small gap between what you see and what you sense, is what keeps the spark alive. You don't need to play games. You just need to remember that your peace, your focus, your presence, those are the things that make you valuable. And when you understand that, you stop chasing. You stop begging for attention. You stop handing over your worth like it's something that needs to be earned back. You become the kind of man whose calmness is magnetic, whose silence speaks louder than compliments, whose presence lingers even after he's gone. That's when everything changes. That's when she starts thinking about you, wondering what you're doing, questioning why she misses you. Not because you pulled away, but because you stopped needing to prove your place. You became something rare in a world full of noise. A man who doesn't lose himself to be loved. You meet a woman who swears she wants something real, something deep, something lasting. You believe her. You give her the version of yourself that's patient, kind, consistent, the kind that would make anyone proud to love you. You think that's what she's been waiting for. And for a while, she seems happy. But then, just when you think things are solid, she starts to drift. Her messages slow down. Her tone changes. She doesn't seem to crave your presence anymore. You start replaying everything in your head, wondering where you went wrong. But you didn't do anything wrong. You just did too much right. See, there's a strange paradox in attraction, one that isn't about games or manipulation but about human psychology. People don't stay hooked on what they fully understand. They stay hooked on what they're still trying to figure out. When she knows she can have you completely, without question or effort, her mind stops reaching for you. The emotional tension that once fueled the connection dissolves. It's not because she's cruel or shallow, it's because certainty kills excitement. The truth is, attraction thrives on contrast. She needs to feel your warmth, but she also needs to feel your distance. She needs to sense your presence, but never fully possess it. When she feels you slipping just slightly beyond her grasp, her brain starts to release dopamine, that addictive little chemical that makes people chase what they can't fully have. That's not manipulation. That's how attachment forms. That's how desire stays alive. Most men lose this balance. They confuse love with reassurance, presence with pressure. They think that the more they give, the stronger the bond will become. But what actually happens is the opposite. The moment she feels you depend on her reaction for your peace of mind, she loses the instinct to chase. The dynamic flips. The one who needs less always holds more power. And that doesn't mean love has to be a power struggle. It just means attraction can't survive when one side stops being mysterious. It's not about pretending to be unavailable. It's about genuinely having a life that doesn't revolve around her. A man who's deeply rooted in his own world, his purpose, his focus, his rhythm, radiates an energy that says, "You can join me, but I'm moving either way." That quiet self-assurance is magnetic because it reminds her that she's dealing with someone who doesn't need her to feel complete. That's what creates emotional gravity. Think about it, she's not addicted to indifference. She's addicted to self-control. She's drawn to the man who doesn't let his feelings make him desperate. The one who doesn't panic when she pulls back. The one who doesn't text 10 times when she goes quiet, but simply goes on with his life. Because deep down, she respects what she can't fully predict. That's the moment when her emotions reawaken. She starts thinking about you again, wondering what you're doing, replaying old moments, feeling that small ache that says, "I might be losing something valuable." That's when she leans in. That's when the balance returns. But if you collapse the moment she withdraws, if you start chasing what's pulling away, she'll feel the shift instantly. Women are hypersensitive to energy. The second she senses that your calm is gone, that her approval defines your mood, she subconsciously categorizes you as emotionally dependent. Not equal, not grounded, not the man she was drawn to in the beginning. The irony is that women don't fall for the man who makes them feel safe all the time. They fall for the one who makes them feel awake. Safe is comfort. Awake is desire. One soothes the mind. The other stirs the heart. And the man who understands how to balance both, who can offer stability without losing mystery, becomes unforgettable. So when she says, "I want a man who treats me well," she means it. But when she starts to pull away from a man who does, it's not hypocrisy, it's psychology. The part of her that craves excitement, the part that equates uncertainty with value, needs to feel that tiny spark of tension to stay emotionally alive. And your job isn't to manipulate that. It's to master yourself so completely that your calm naturally creates it. Because real attraction isn't built on trying to please her. It's built on letting her earn your presence. You don't chase. You allow her to chase comfort inside your confidence. You don't withdraw to punish her. You simply protect your peace when energy isn't reciprocated. That's what keeps her curious. That's what keeps her invested. And once you understand that balance between warmth and restraint, giving and holding back, you stop trying to convince anyone to stay. You become the man who doesn't beg for love, because his life already feels full without it. And ironically, that's when love starts chasing him. You ever notice how the moment you stop chasing, things start coming toward you? It's strange, isn't it? You spend months trying to impress a woman, remembering every detail she mentions, doing everything right, being there whenever she needs, and somehow the more you give, the less she seems to feel. But the second you pull back, focus on your own world, start living like she's not the center of your orbit, something shifts. Suddenly, She's texting first. She's curious again. She starts to miss you. And no, it's not because you're being manipulative. It's because you've restored something vital: polarity. Human connection needs polarity to survive. Two magnets can't stick together if they're facing the same direction. It's the difference between familiarity and fascination. When she feels she completely understands you, she stops reaching for you. Her emotions settle into safety, not desire. But when you stand firm in your energy, calm, focused, and unpredictable, you bring back that small spark of tension that reminds her who you are. The men who master this don't do it to control women. They do it to stay centered. They know that overgiving isn't kindness. It's anxiety disguised as love. It's the quiet fear that if you stop proving your worth, you'll stop being worthy. But real strength, real attraction, comes from a man who can hold space without rushing to fill it, who can sit in silence without needing to be reassured, who can love deeply, but still walk away peacefully if that love isn't matched. That balance between interest and independence is what makes you magnetic. It's what creates that strange pull she can't explain, because it's not about what you say or do, it's about the energy you carry. The man who knows his worth without needing validation becomes a mirror for her deepest desire. Security with a hint of danger. Calm with a trace of challenge. Predictable enough to be trusted, but mysterious enough to be exciting. And the truth is, women aren't addicted to being treated badly. They're addicted to feeling alive. They want to feel something. A mix of admiration, anticipation, curiosity, even a little uncertainty. That's why the man who's grounded in himself, who doesn't flinch when she pulls away, who doesn't beg for closeness, who simply stays still in his own gravity, becomes unforgettable. He's not playing games. He's living in alignment. When you stop trying to manage her perception of you, something incredible happens. You start radiating authenticity. You stop over-explaining, stop overcorrecting, stop apologizing for your standards. You begin to move through the world like a man who's not afraid of being misunderstood. And that confidence, that refusal to overinvest emotionally, speaks louder than 1,000 compliments. Because here's the real secret. You don't attract through pursuit. You attract through presence. The man who's constantly chasing attention is invisible, because he's blending into every other man trying to prove himself. But the one who can look her in the eye, listen, smile, and then walk away without attachment, that man leaves a mark. Not because he's unavailable, but because he's untouchable in spirit. The more you make peace with being alone, the more magnetic you become. Because now you're not chasing connection out of fear. You're choosing it out of fullness. And when a woman feels that energy, that calm certainty, that quiet power, she doesn't know why she can't stop thinking about you. She just knows she wants more. That's how attraction really works. Not through words, not through tricks, but through self-mastery. Through emotional stillness that makes others lean in just to feel a bit of your calm. When you stop needing her to see your worth, that's when she finally does. At some point, every man who's been through enough heartbreak, enough confusion, enough chasing that went nowhere, comes to a quiet realization. You don't have to fight for love. You just have to stop fighting yourself. That's when everything changes. Because when you finally stop overthinking how to impress her, when you stop trying to analyze every word or predict every mood, you step out of that constant mental storm and into something powerful: calm. Real, grounded calm. And that calm is exactly what draws her in. It's not your words, not your looks, not even your charm. It's that quiet certainty that says, I'm good either way. She feels it instantly. When you're no longer chasing her validation, when your emotions aren't swinging with her attention, when you don't need to be chosen to feel valuable, she feels something different. She feels your balance. And that balance is intoxicating because it's so rare. Most people move from need. They act out of fear, fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of losing what they never really had. But the man who's found peace doesn't move from fear. He moves from choice. He knows that love isn't about convincing anyone. It's about alignment. You can't force attraction, you can't manufacture connection, and you can't buy respect. You can only embody what you want to receive. The man who respects himself will never settle for inconsistent affection. The man who values his time will never beg for someone who keeps disappearing. The man who's learned his worth will never chase what drains him. And ironically, that's when women start to chase him. Because now he represents something they crave: stability with soul, presence without pressure, strength without ego. He's not trying to dominate, he's just unshakable. His energy doesn't scream, "Look at me." It whispers, "I'm already enough." That's the paradox of attraction. The more complete you become on your own, the more magnetic you are to others. When your life is full, when your days are rich with purpose, when you wake up knowing who you are, you radiate a kind of peace that makes people want to be around you. You become the calm in someone else's storm. And that's why women get addicted to men who seem unbothered. Not because they're cold, but because their peace feels like safety. The truth is, women don't fall for indifference. They fall for self-control. They fall for the man whose emotions are deep but disciplined, who can love without losing himself, who can care without collapsing. The kind of man who can say, "I want you," and mean it, but never from a place of need. That's power. That's magnetism. That's what it means to be centered in a world addicted to chaos. So stop chasing the illusion of constant approval. Stop trying to outgive, outplease, or outprove. Start building the kind of presence that speaks for itself. Be unpredictable not because you're playing games, but because you're alive, passionate, and focused on something bigger than validation. Build a life so rich and grounded that anyone who enters it feels lucky just to be part of it. Because in the end, attraction isn't a trick, it's a reflection. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And the moment you become the kind of man who needs nothing, you become the one every woman can't stop thinking about. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. That's the real secret behind why some men never chase, but are always chased. They've mastered the rarest kind of power there is, the ability to walk through life knowing that everything they need is already within them.